Hello, leader. Welcome back to the Fierce Factor podcast. You are tuning into episode number 195. It's your host, Kayla here. And besides my terrible cold, I am so excited to be sharing this fresh new year with you and diving into our focus with you for this quarter at KLC. This episode is going to kick off a timely new series that I'm going to be recording for you to lead into our upcoming 3-day boot camp that's coming up on January 29th through 31st. So save the date. This boot camp is going to be all about developing your thought leadership, your personal brand, and market visibility. And if you're a female business owner or listen, an injector or a provider within a practice who's even thinking about how you are going to show up and lead with your most dynamic presence in 2024, save the date for our boot camp and get excited because you are really going to enjoy the next 6 weeks of programming from KLC. So last week I shared a few strategies for identifying the season of growth you're in, and I discussed 5 different ways to work with our team this year. But what I didn't share, is the context around the anchor philosophy that will really underpin our approach to leadership coaching in 2024. The philosophy that entrepreneurship exposes us under a potent magnifying glass to who we are as women, as mothers, as friends, as partners, as impact makers, as influencers, as experts. It requires us to step into a spotlight whether or not we think we signed up for it. And guess what? No business analyst out of Wharton is going to tell you, but I will. Your sustainable success as the CEO of your business relies on your business acumen, third string, to your passion, your resilience, and your ability to emotionally self-regulate through the mindfuck of the game of building a business, leading a team, and stepping bare naked onto a stage of literal unknown. If you're nodding with me, if you know, you know. And this is why I feel so passionate about the practice of leadership, because something I recognize happening in many industries as a result of the ability to self-credential in social media, the rise of the affiliate and bro marketing networks, and let's not forget corporate politics, is a lack of substance in true thought leadership. And I don't think it's always malicious or intentional. In fact, it's more of the lack of awareness around this issue that really inspires me to talk about it. Because I've worked with some of the most brilliant minds on the planet whose messages become diluted by the big stage, pay-for-play speaking opportunities in which their personal message, it just gets lost. Or maybe it's their own insecurities around stepping onto a bigger stage or occupying space, even just showing up on social media the way that they could to make the kind of impact they want to make. And there's no reason for that. So I've decided it's time for change. And if you're like, okay, Kaylee, who are you to change anything? Well, let me tell you, I'm a woman with passion, resilience, and commitment to no longer tolerating women of brilliance, women of me, quite frankly, who have something profound to say because we're inspired, provocative thinkers who aren't busy talking about the trends, but we're quietly investing in building the market where those trends will exist. And look, that is true thought leadership. Over the past several years, I've seen a rise in ambition of women around the globe to expand and expose their voice to a broader audience, to create meaningful change in the world through their message, and to gain credibility and recognition for the trailblazing work that they're doing on a daily basis. And that's why the obvious place for us to put our focus as a company at KLC is by cultivating thought leadership on a deeper level, taking these women from the place of leadership within their organizations to unleashing their authentic leadership onto any kind of stage they so desire. And when I'm talking about they, I mean you, goddess. So we will kick off this series with a bonus replay of one of my most highly requested topics, how to become a more dynamic communicator. And over the next 5 weeks, I'll be discussing what kind of thought leader do you aspire to be? I'll be talking about the role of team and thought leadership and why we keep outgrowing our employees, getting good at being bad, the key to becoming a great public speaker. And I'm going to be bringing on a surprise guest to talk about a methodology that we are collaborating on to develop inside of KLC to help bring to you some really incredible new programming to support thought leaders through this stage of evolution. And then absolutely save the date for January 29th through 31st for our 3-day boot camp and a lot of other fun conversations that we'll be having over the next 6 weeks. So I can't wait to share this with you. I hope that if you have any kind of interest in becoming a more dynamic communicator, improving your onstage or your executive presence, or just feeling more empowered to show up and present yourself in the way that you know will magnetize people to move in a direction that you know you can make an impact in, then be sure to tune in and join us for our event, and you will enjoy this next series. So, okay, leader, without further ado, enjoy this bonus replay clip on how to become a more dynamic communicator.
Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. I'm often asked the question, how can I become a more engaging speaker on stage? Or how can I become a more charismatic communicator? And I'm no expert here, but I strongly believe that the answer to this question starts with having a unique individual worldview and giving ourselves the space to develop that. Like a perspective or philosophy that belongs to you and only you. Because if you're trying to effectively communicate a viewpoint, your delivery will be night and day more influential if you're sharing a perspective that's yours. And look, I've been working for many years to become a more engaging, charismatic, and influential speaker and podcaster. And what I've learned over years of practicing this skill is that results come by learning how to be a more dynamic communicator in general. I recently read some published research that stated that around 15 million people deal with the fear of public speaking on a daily basis. That's 75% of the population. That means more than 200 million people feel nervous about talking to others. This is a true fact, yet I'm asked all the time, how do I get up on stage? How do I build my keynote? How do I get on podium? How do I become a thought leader? And I think we sometimes convince ourselves that certain people are just born to be better speakers. And while this might be true in some scenarios, please don't let this prevent you from becoming the best at anything you put your mind to. I've learned so much about communication through coaching, listening, asking questions, being curious. It's not always about the delivery, yet that's what we see. So we want to immediately focus on that. And that's why I think what I have to share with you today might help you see how much closer you are to becoming the powerhouse speaker and persuasive communicator you dream of. While I'm basking in a spacious environment, generating expansive thought and creativity, I thought it might be useful to share my personal few tips for becoming a more dynamic communicator. Number one is to know your primary goal. Sometimes we have so much to say and so many ideas that our message ping-pongs around. Start with an outline, becoming very specifically focused on your main idea. What is the one thing you want your audience to walk away feeling inspired to do? Notice I didn't say knowledge or for them to know. Dynamic speakers inspire action. They move their audience. So even if you're teaching a lesson on how to change a diaper, the goal would be to inspire your audience to feel empowered to go immediately change a stinky diaper. P.S. If you do ever give that talk, call me. I need to witness this one. The second tip would be to find a role model. Think about someone you look up to who is a brilliant communicator. Break down their style. What is it about them and the way they deliver that message that you're drawn to? Analyze their content, their delivery, their cadence, their pauses. What do they do routinely that makes their communication impactful? So here are a few examples that come to mind for me. Tony Robbins, he's motivational. He can really get someone to move and take action in 20 minutes. And he uses a lot of stories to really get them to resonate with him. Simon Sinek, he's authentic. He's relatable, instantly connecting with his audience. He's one of the good guys. One of his superpowers is making you feel like you're the expert, and he's helping you embrace your own power. An inspirational speaker is Steve Jobs. He sees vision and he knew how to move a crowd because he was showing them possibilities that didn't exist. Another one is Oprah, and she's empathetic. She looks in the eye of her audience, asking deeper questions, creating a really safe space for them to feel all the feels, to really be willing to open up to her, to talk with her. And if you don't have any, off the top of your head that really inspire you, just Google some of the top paid motivational speakers in the world. Joe Rogan, Magic Johnson, Damon John, Dave Ramsey, Joel Osteen, Susie Orman, to name a few. So follow these guys and gals, analyze what they're doing, and feel empowered to adopt some of those strategies into your own methods of communication. Tip number 3 is to simplify. And I'm not talking about dumbing down a message. It's simply more about simplifying your message so you're actually delivering a main idea in a clear and influential way that your audience will understand and retain information. So, for example, Brooke Castillo uses this analogy. You don't want to give away a bag of groceries, right? You want to give them the meal, and then they will be more likely to want to make the recipe themselves. So essentially, you're focusing first on outcome and then the process. A lot of times we want to talk about the whole process, help them see the bigger picture. How can they be impacted by understanding and adopting that philosophy? And then what's the process to getting there? Simplify it for them so they don't have to do it while you're talking. Number 4 is to use data. Read, know your facts. Open a Wall Street Journal, ladies. You don't have to have written a study to research data and world events and develop context around your own conclusions. Too many times I hear presenters talk about trends, which is amazing, but actual numbers are way more compelling and tangible for your audience. While general ideas may provoke thought, specific analytics command action-worthy attention. Tip number 5 is to tell stories. You guys, storytelling is the most obviously talked about marketing play out there. Stories help your audience connect with you and also helps them tie a personal experience to the message you're delivering. Back to the baby diaper lecture. I could launch into the 5-step process for changing a diaper, or I can tell a specific story about how skipping one of those steps resulted in acidic pee spouting all over the wall on my favorite painting and now has faded drip stains forever embedded into it. Which approach evokes a visual experience for you? Don't ask me why I'm on the diaper analogy today, but I'm going with it. Also, read between the lines to notice how the story I chose to share with you will either draw you in and help you relate, or it will repulse you, which as a communicator helps me more intimately align with the people I consider my ideal audience. You're welcome. Tip number 6 is captivate in your first impression. A client recently gifted me a book by Vanessa Van Edwards called Captivate. And in this book, she breaks down what she calls the science of succeeding with people. She believes that making a killer first impression is the ultimate social weapon. Essentially, what we're talking about here is becoming intentional about the impression we leave behind during interactions with others. In this book, she talks about how first impressions are critical, and she coined this term she calls leveling up. She states that first impressions are basically a survival mechanism. When you meet a person, you have to quickly decide if you want them in your life or not. So ever heard of the fight or flight response? It's a way that your body instinctively reacts to external stimuli and decides if you should stay or you should flee. And this is why first impressions are so swift and decisive. Your audience, or stranger for that matter, is trying to answer 3 basic questions about you during the first few moments of interaction. Level 1, are you a friend or a foe? So this is where our subconscious is doing a personal safety check. Level 2, Are you a winner or a loser? And when we first meet someone, we want to quickly assess their confidence. Do they look like a leader or a follower? And then level 3, are you an ally or an enemy? So are you someone they would want on their team? We need to answer these 3 questions in a matter of seconds. And using our body language, eye contact, and helping others feel relaxed around us helps us with this process. Notice someone who is a master at working the room, right? They have a way of making every person they interact with feel seen, heard, and appreciated. Take this approach versus trying to be the person that other people look up to. Instead, help them feel like the most important person in the room. Which brings me to point number 7. Stop making it all about you. Most novice and truthfully many experienced speakers approach their communication with themselves in mind. How will I look, sound, deliver my message? Or I'm the expert here. I'm going to share all of my knowledge, right? They're talking a lot about their own experiences without helping to tie a direct connection to how that's going to help impact or really relate to what the audience is thinking and feeling. When you truly know and care for the well-being of your audience, you can shift the narrative to showcasing them and their brilliance, helping them see a light at the end of the tunnel and feel more empowered to trust themselves and take meaningful action. Tip number 8 is to practice failing. Think back to when you started doing what you do. And now think of where you are and the amount of expertise and knowledge and experience that you have. There is no amount of tips, coaching, curriculum, knowledge that can supplement the practice of doing your craft. For me, speaking is a lot like swimming. You can be an expert at all of the mechanics of swim strokes and breath and all the things, but until you throw your ass in the water, you can and will not swim. This part sucks, but learn from your own experiences. I listen back to every single podcast and live speaking engagement, and I evaluate myself so I know how I can improve next time. And ultimately, the more you do something, the more natural you become. Tip number 9, formulate your own philosophy. How many times do you listen to people say the same damn thing and feel like, yeah, I've already heard that, or someone said that yesterday, right? We tend to hear something awesome and then want to repeat it. But dynamic, well-paid communicators, they have their own independent thoughts. And you do too. But you need to spend some time with yourself to really formulate your worldview so you can communicate it with clarity and conviction. Take some time out, perhaps a solo retreat, hint, hint, to explore your own disruptive philosophy. How does your perspective shift traditional models of thinking and ways of doing? You can even take a generally basic concept and stimulate thought around its power. Take Brené Brown, for example, and her research on vulnerability. Who would have ever thought that we would all be shouting from the rooftops that vulnerability is a superpower? And tip number 10 is know your own why. Are you looking to educate, inspire, build your brand, grow your audience, build your network, or get paid? Knowing the reason you're putting yourself out there will help keep you pushing to improve, but also keep you on track to make sure you're in front of the right audiences and on the right stages. This past year, I hired a coach to help me develop my keynote because my goal is to become a highly paid speaker, which for me meant branching out of industry. And this has taken me way out of my comfort zone, but knowing my end goal has been crucial to helping me stay the course and to push myself to try to improve with each and every word I speak. Okay, leader, it's been amazing taking this quick little break to chat with you, and I cannot wait to return home as a woman who is well rested, clear on her goals, and confident in the assets that she has architected to get her there. And P.S., we are developing some really powerful tools for you to help guide you through the strategic planning process and experience of a solo retreat. So if this is something you might be interested in, stay tuned for that announcement via email. If you're not on our email list, sign up today at klcconsultants.com/join. Listen, leader, if you're vibing with me here, hang tight, because I have a brand new resource for you. You are a successful, confident, powerful woman who just isn't into being average. No, you have a calling, and part of that calling is requiring you to level up. And I know that if you're working across the next $1 million milestone in your business, you need to be in the right circles. And perhaps that's why you found us. I'd love to invite you to join The Blueprint, a weekly resource for inspired, provocative thinkers who are taking this conversation to the next level. Get access to free business tools, podcast supplements, guideposts, and direct communication with me and my expert team. And of course, a masterfully curated circle of women making big moves and disrupting the status quo in aesthetics and wellness. You can link directly through the show notes or head to klcconsultants.com/blueprint. It's time to elevate. See you there, goddess.